I think part of the land that Louis was on belonged to my family. But they attended the school. My sister went there, my mother went there. Before it was Vienna Catholic School, my grandmother attended there. So that's our relation to the school. My aunt was secretary there. And I went there. And my kids did not. They went to Montreal because of the boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm wondering, since we started talking about Louise Archer, if you have any other memories of older structures in the town of Vienna, whether they're still here or not, that you would want to talk about. I'd love to hear about your childhood here.
I don't, and that's because I don't. Well, except for Louis Archer was much smaller. I remember that. Other structures. First Baptist Church, which was on Lawyers Road by the post office. There's still a church there. I mean, it's used, I don't know how it's used now, but that was the first church. Any other old structures? Post office used to be on Mill Street, I think, when I was a kid. It's now, it's Pennywise. I don't know what it's now. What else do I remember? So Vienna was lined with maple trees. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, I remember when gas stations appeared. And we thought, Vienna's changing. Because there were gas stations on two corners. But those were old days. Maple Avenue was Maple Avenue because of the maple trees. Yeah.
Can you talk about the changes a little bit?
Changes, gosh. So after I graduated from high school, I went to college in D.C. and stayed here for a long time. And some changes I was not directly aware of, but it's much built up. It's a great town still. Community Center, I remember when that was built. My grandfather contributed to that. In fact, his name is somewhere on the plaque that they have, or I guess the different people, which is great. It still has the old town feel, which I really like. It was great moving back and having Mayor Robinson right down the corner, who knew all about my family, so that was really neat. My kids said, "Hey, did you know the mayor?" I thought that was fascinating. So I think it still has the old town feel, even though it's been built on it. I remember sledding up on Pleasant Street. On the other end of Pleasant Street, I lived on Pleasant Street, just around the corner. And we would go across the street. On the other end, because it was a hill, to sleigh ride. I remember the police blocking the streets so that cars wouldn't go where there was snow, so kids could sleigh. Vienna was still segregated when I grew up. Although we lived here and our neighbors were white, then the school, Vienna Elementary, was just where it is now. We had to go across town to Louis Archer School. And during the day, my siblings played the neighbors because they were mostly boys. They were white, but we didn't go to school together. We played together, which is not unusual. What else do I remember about old structures? That's about it, old structures. There was a bank. Yes, and what was that bank? I don't remember, but I remember going there, which was, I told this story at my school. We have an annual Martin Luther King Day, and I was bringing guests there. It was my job to put this off, and one of the guests was talking about doing research on Thurgood Marshall and Houston Summers, who did a lot of work in Leesburg, Loudoun County, when people didn't know that, and talking about how it was during segregation and how they used this cultural and social competency to really work across races. They would take someone out to lunch, the opposing attorney, and use that social interaction. And then in the courtroom, everybody was equal because they were lawyers, which is very unusual in many other professions. And when they were talking that story about integration and segregation, I remembered going to the bank. You know how these women just show up. Going to the bank with my grandfather, I must have been about 6, and he was maybe the only bank in town I would imagine. And this was a competent man who was going about business, whatever he was going about it. And everybody knows everybody, black and white. So we're walking to the store, this man named Mr. Dove, I think was the bank manager, and walked over and he says, "Well, hello, Mr. Dove." And so I'm so proud to be there with my grandfather. And Mr. Dove says, "Well, hello, George." And I'm shocked that he called my grandfather by his first name. I looked at him, I couldn't believe it. And so when we got home, my grandfather called me. So that was my first encounter with, so things are different. And usually because we were kind of, I think, isolated here I didn't experience too much of anything else.
How are you isolated?
In the sense that we didn't, I mean, there was no movie theaters, so we didn't have, there was no segregation in that. There was in schools, there was nothing here. So what could you do? We go to the drugstore. I guess there was a counter to sit at. I don't remember even trying to sit there, but other people did. I don't know. I think Vienna, at some point, there was something called is the Vienna Inn now? I'm not sure it was always the Vienna Inn. Both when relatives came from Pittsburgh, I remember they went there to get their beer or whatever else. So I don't have some of those encounters that folks older than I have, like that maybe my uncle would have, because I just didn't have that experience. So yeah, we were here and there was nothing else to do.